Om. 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 Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya-paryantam Vande Guru-paramparam Shruti-smriti-purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad-pada Shankaram Loka-shankaram समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् Hari Om. So this is going to be the topics for today. We'll have a quick recap and then we'll enter into chapter 15. And we'll try to cover the first three verses, at least the first 2.5 verses, which actually describes the samsara tree. And then, and of course, we will choose some selected highlights from Shankara Bhashya. The Shankara Bhashya and the English transliteration, I did not share it today. A couple of reasons why, because a lot of new people are there. First itself, when they look at it, they should not get, disturbed. But normally what I do is actually I share that part of Shankara Bhashya with the English transliteration so that, we'll be able to follow. But I'll do from next. And second reason is actually not much actually, we are referring to Shankara Bhashya today. There are few sentences which you'll be able to easily understand, or I will be able to explain it without English translation, those who are not familiar with Devanagari script. So you'll feel comfortable. So I can assure you that. Then we'll go into topic for Mananam for the week and what we did last week and what we're going to do next week. Then we'll enter into guided meditation in the last few minutes. And of course, Ramanavami. So we'll invoke Lord Rama and then meditate upon.
Hari Om, Uncle, quick question.
Sure.
If I have any questions, when is a time to ask? Good time to ask.
I think you can interrupt. You can interrupt, and then
at the end of the class, or
no, you can as and when the question is there, you can interrupt. What I can do is, if there is something which I'm going to cover later, then I can tell you at that time that hold up for some time. Otherwise, I'll quickly answer, and then of course we'll take it up. We'll allocate some time towards before we go for the topic for Mananam. We'll allocate some time.
Okay, Uncle. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Okay, great. So let's start with chanting. Gita Dhyanam, I will chant first, and then Gita Panjamrit, Uttam has volunteered to chant today. So I will chant Gita Dhyanam, but as I said, actually we'll not chant all the 9 slokas. Last week we chanted that. We'll just selectively do the chanting for Gita chanting today. Dhyanam. ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवेद्वेषिणीम् Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yatkrupatamaham vande paramananda madhavam paramananda madhavam. We chant the five slokas of Gita's Jamrit and Uttam.
उद्धरेदात्मनात्मानं नात्मानमवसादयेत् आत्मैव ह्यात्मनो बन्धुः आत्मैव रिपुरात्मनः कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भूः मा ते सङ्गोऽस्थ कर्मणि यत्करोषि यदोष्णासि आज्जुहोषि ददासि यत् यत्तपस्ससि कौन्तेय तत्कुरुष्व मदर्पणम् यनन्यश्चिन्तयन्तो मां ये जनाः पर्युपासते तेषां नित्याभियुक्तानां योगक्षेमं वहाम्यहम् सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यः मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः.
Very good. Thank you, Uttam. We talked about these topics in the quick recap last week. We talked about Prasthana Trahi, where exactly Bhagavad Gita fits in, and of course the three major texts are prescribed as the Prasthana Trahi. One is, of course, Upanishads, then Bhagavad Gita, then Brahma Sutra. Out of which, actually, of course, the important thing is Bhagavad Gita because it's, as we saw, very practically, we can relate it and apply it. We saw it in detail. Then we went into Bhagavad Gita and we saw some of the highlights of Bhagavad Gita because it is the source itself, is Bhagwan himself is the source. It is coming from Bhagwan. And who is the composer? Composer also is another avatar of Bhagwan, Vyasaya. Vyasaya Vishwarupaya, Vishwarupaya. So Vyasa Bhagwan is none other than Vishnu. So it is composed by him, compiled by him. Source is from Bhagwan, compiler is Bhagwan. And of course, the content is essence of Upanishad. And the benefit also we saw moksha, liberation is the ultimate benefit out of Bhagavad Gita study. And of course, for those who are qualified, it will take them to moksha. And those who are not qualified also, anybody for that matter, when they study Bhagavad Gita, we saw, it will make them qualify and then help them to progress in the spiritual path. So that's the beauty. So we saw the source, we saw who is actually compiled it, and what is the content, and also what's the benefit. So that's the glory of Bhagavad Gita. And we also talked about some of the reference books, actually, what we'll be referring, mainly Adi Shankaracharya's Bhashya, which some of the PDF and all I'll circulate. And then, of course, our Gurudev's chapter 15 commentary. Those are the things. So that's a quick recap. And of course, we entered into the verse 1 with some introductory Bhashya from Shankara Bhashya introduction. But we'll see that now as part of when we enter into chapter 15. So with that background, let's dive into chapter 15. Now, Bhagwan Adi Shankaracharya Ji very nicely connects the chapter 14 to 15. And those who are actually familiar with the chapter 14, at the end of chapter 14, and having talked about various gunas, Rajas, Sattva, Tamas, and so on, he has actually highlighted one has to become gunatitaha. One has to transcend beyond the gunas, all the three gunas. And who will be able to do that? avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate. Though the people actually, one who is able to avyabhicharena, unswearing bhakti, and does the seva to Bhagavan, then that person will be Brahma Bhuya Kalpyate, will be able to be fit for learning and becoming one with Brahman, and will be able to realize. So that is the way actually Bhagavan concluded the chapter 14. So in chapter 15, that is why without even Arjuna asking, he starts teaching about Brahma Vidya, because he has set the stage in chapter 14. If you want to become the gunatita, if you want to transcend beyond these gunas, and if you want to realize Brahman, then of course, along with bhakti, when you actually do the seva, ananya bhakti, when you do the seva, then you become qualified for to become a student for Jnana Yoga. And here is the Jnana Yoga. And that is how actually, he starts this chapter 15. So that's where actually, we saw that. And chapter 15, that way, is a very, very important chapter. And because it covers all the topics of what Shastra has to teach us. It is a text, all by itself is a Shastra. And that's what Bhagavan also says at the end of this chapter, also on the 20th sloka. He himself declares that this is the Shastra. And I want to read one sentence from our Gurudev's commentary about chapter 15. Very powerful statement. In short, this chapter is one of the rarest pieces of literature available in the world that so directly indicates the infinite Brahman. For the beauty and brevity of the stanzas in this chapter, no other portion, even in Gita, can stand favorable comparison. Even within Gita itself, there is no other chapter which can be comparable to this. I mean, that kind of a bold statement Gurudev makes in the first introduction itself. So that's the beauty of chapter 15. So we're all blessed to learn the meaning of chapter 15. And of course, the chanting is very important, which we are all practicing, and our children are all practicing. That's great. And we're going to have Samasti Gita also, as we all, I hope, signed up. And apart from chanting, if we are able to know the meaning and then, sink it in, then that will be the best, because as Gurudev declares, this is the best actually, in the entire literature and even within Bhagavad Gita itself. And then after this, then we saw briefly the structure of chapter 15, how the various 20 slokas, a short chapter, but how they are all organized to cover all the topics of Vedanta, right? And then now we are going to see the first 2.5 verses today. We just chanted the first sloka last time, and then we'll see first 2.5 slokas, because that actually describes the samsara. Now, why Bhagavan actually starts with the samsara, and that also is going to explain, and we saw it in the Bhashyam. And obviously, we should know what is the problem. When as they say, a problem well defined is half solved, right? So Bhagavan actually uses that, define the problem. So for defining the problem, he using the metaphor, vriksha tree, and which is a very peculiar tree. And he describes that the samsara as that vriksha tree, aswatha tree, and that we're going to see the description and then related to samsara, right? In this context, actually, we reflected on the various metaphors that we normally come across in Shastra last week, and I shared that, and some of you have reflected and then shared very, very good reflection, and appreciate, we'll talk about that when we come to the topic for discussion. So with that, we are going to enter into the first topic, which is the samsara tree. And why Bhagavan actually teaches Atma Tattva, that we just saw, because the connection with the chapter 14. And because in chapter 14, he concludes that way, then he himself actually starts teaching the Atma Tattva, self-knowledge, because knowledge is the only way one can get realization, right? Of course, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and all that is needed. And, but they are all preparing ourselves to be ready to be fit for Jnana Yoga. Like Bhagavan himself says, Brahma Bhuya Kalpate, to be fit for Brahmanyanam, all these things are needed. So that's why, he's actually straight away starting with, um, uh, teaching Atma Tattva. We saw in those who have studied Atma Bodha also, the very first text, one of the few texts of, initial text of Adi Shankaracharya Ji. He says, he gives for every sloka there, as some of you know, he gives an example. Every sloka, he will give a concept and then he will give an example. Now, in this case, where the knowledge only can give moksha, for that he is using this example. Like for cooking, we not only need fire, and only fire can do the cooking, right? So, like that, for liberation, we need the self-knowledge. Akasya bhakti jnanam. So for cooking, fire is needed, but for liberation, jnanam is needed. That is why actually Bhagavan actually is entering into this topic of teaching us Atma Tattva. He also compassionately begins because Arjuna did not ask here anything. And at the same time, Bhagavan knows that Arjuna needs this and we all need it. And that's why, after having set the stage in 14th chapter, he starts with Urdha Moolam Adashakam, with the samsara tree as the metaphor. Okay. And also samsara, we all know that which keeps on changing, right? And we all go through that. In this minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, things actually, we are all going through the ups and downs, and that's how the samsara is defined. Samsarati iti samsaraha, which keeps changing is samsara. That is the normal definition. Actually, in some language, I think in Tamil, samsara means wife also. But anyway, so samsara in general is that which keeps on changing. Now, when we not only in this current birth, it keeps changing, but birth after birth also we keep on actually then going through the same cycle. Death, birth, rebirth, death, birth, rebirth, and so on. It keeps on changing, right? Now, how do we come out of it? And that is what actually, in chapter 15 is focusing on. We can keep on going, from India, we come to America in this birth. Maybe if we do enough punyam, then we'll go to one of those upper lokas, or depending upon our bank balance at the end of leaving this body, then we may go to Patala also. We don't know. And this cycle will continue, keep on going. But how do we come out of it? Right? And how do we realize? How do we attain moksha? So that is actually the focus, and that is why this metaphor, the tree metaphor, is used to explain that how actually we are good. The entire universe is so vast, and so we cannot really imagine. The entire universe, the cosmos, the planets, and all these things we cannot really imagine. So we need a metaphor, right? In order to find the cause for this universe and what is happening in the universe, then we should know how to define or understand the effect, right? Like only when we know this is a pot and it has got this name and form and so on, then we can inquire and then find out that what is the root of this, the substratum of this is clay. But only when we know that, oh, this is pot, like that. But the entire universe is so vast, so dynamic, and so much. And we know that it goes on, and every time actually they are coming out with new galaxies and new universe, part of the universe, and planets, and so on. So it is so vast. So how do we represent that universe in a form where actually we'll be able to inquire and find the root of that universe? So we need a metaphor for that. And that is why that is used. To first, we have to understand this universe, what's happening. Then we can develop the detachment and then qualify for self-knowledge. And that is what Adi Shankaracharya will say is Raktasya hi samsarat Bhagavad Jnanena Adhikara. So, we'll have to develop that detachment. And how do we develop the detachment? How do we shift our attention from the movie to the screen? That much of vairagya when we have to develop. Then only we'll be able to, see the screen and enjoy the movie. But otherwise, we'll be only in the movie, only going through all the ups and downs, like all the hero and heroine going through. We'll be going through that. So we have developed that vairagya. Na anyasya iti. Otherwise is not possible. That actually the declaration, what Bhagavan in the Adi Shankaracharya ji, he makes it in the beginning itself, right? And that is why this sloka, the metaphor is actually given. And we'll just chant this and then we'll see how actually we can start with that metaphor and then start inquiring into the root, which is the ultimate source cause for all this. I will chant, of course, we don't have to repeat for this because all of us know how to chant. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdhvamoolamadha Shakam Ashwattham Prahuravyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Veda Sa Vedavid. So, this is that tree metaphor. This picture, when last week when we went to Parinita and Nataraj house, he had this on his display. I believe Nataraj has given all the input to AI and it generated this beautiful picture. It was so attractive and so representative also of this entire universe. So with the roots above and the branches below and so on, what we're going to study. So I thought we will use this picture. I was using some other picture last time, but this picture is very much more attractive. And this is what that, vriksha, the samsara vriksha, ashwatha tree. And what is that ashwatha tree and what is it maps into, how it maps into samsara? We're going to see that. Now, why actually we are representing this metaphor? Because, as I said, we need to have something to start inquiring. We can inquire about the pot, and then arrive at the source clay, because we know pot. But the entire universe we have to first represent. And for that, we cannot really conceive as it is. So there should be a metaphor for that. And that's why this example is taken. Our Gurudev puts it very, very nicely. This is a minute plus clip. Let us see this.
In the same way, without knowing the effects, how can I point out to you the cause?
Question, are you able to hear the volume?
Yes, Shivaji, we can hear.
Yes, Shivaji.
Oh, very good. Thank you.
And the effect of Narayana expressing is the total cosmos. Not even this world. The total cosmos, the sun and the moon and the stars, the planets, the Milky Way, the whole lot. Whatever the world of objects are all the effect. And the cause, the seed, is Narayana. Now, how can I show the seed unless you conceive the totality of the cause? So this colossal, unimaginable dimension of the total universe, how are we to bring it to Arjuna's mind? Which is number one, it is limited. He thinks of only his kingdom and his cousins and his family and his family trouble. Beyond that, he has no idea how to bring it into that stupid, confused mind. So his only method is graph, pictorial representation.
Yes. So pictorial representation is the only way to represent that complexity of this universe so that we'll be able to inquire and then arrive at the root, the cause. And that is why this metaphor is used. This metaphor, by the way, it is very, not only in Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, but it is used in Upanishads also. In fact, in Kathopanishad, that's where he is also borrowing. Bhagavan is borrowing that example. Upanishad, it is there. In Puranas, it is there. In other places also. Even some of the Prakarana Granthas, Adi Shankaracharya also refers to Chudamani and all that. So it's a very common example. And now. In Kathopanishad, for example, more elaborately it is described than in chapter 15. The Shankara Bhashya actually there is very elaborate. And it goes on and on and on describing the universe. Because to represent the universe, which we know the complexity, in order to represent that universe, then the metaphor, can be as complex as the universe, right? So in Kathopanishad, it deals it in a very in-depth to Yamaraja when he talks to Nachiketa. And of course, Shankara Bhashya also, expands very elaborate. But here in Bhagavad Gita chapter, yeah, and others can go on mute, please, if you can, and unless you have a question. So in Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, we are going to see it is represented. We can actually relate it, but it's not that comprehensive. So keep that in mind, and that way, it will help us to, pictorially understand. So in the first sloka, this is the essence of the meaning, and the Lord says. He refers to the wise people, all those sages. They speak. They means actually, he is referring to, for example, Kathopanishad. Because Bhagwan actually taking the essence of Upanishads. So in Kathopanishad also they speak of the eternal people tree. The people tree, Ashwatha tree, is by the way, this people tree, I'm sure all of you would have seen that. It is the tree which actually has got the longest lifetime also. I believe it is goes on for generations to generations. The average age of that tree is supposed to be about 2000 plus years, and so on. And it has got of course, the root, and also many other roots, also side roots and so on, and big, and it spreads and so on. So that is used actually with a slight twist, which we are going to see that now. So they say that the eternal people tree of samsara, that is actually the tree represents the samsara, whose root is above, and branches are below, and whose leaves are the Vedas. And he gives that metaphor to start with in sloka 1. And those who know about this tree know about Vedas. So obviously, it's very summarized in form, but we are going to expand that. So with that actually meaning, you can look at this, the people tree whose root is above and branches are below, and whose leaves are the Vedas. Leaves are Vedas. And of course, there are other things also which he's going to describe in the second sloka. Right? And we are able to understand this, some representing the entire universe. And then we'll be able to really inquire into Vedas and understand Veda also. So that is how he declares first. Now let's go and see the word level meaning or sentence level meaning, and then again come back to this and then try to see. This is in sloka 1 again. It's sloka 2 also extends the metaphor. So we are going to put both sloka 1 and sloka 2, and also half of sloka 3. All this first two and a half slokas actually represent the metaphor. So, just to in order to conceive and pursue this, just wait till that time, even to imagine also till 2.5 slokas, right? So, but this is the first to start with. Sri Bhagavan Vacha. So the Lord says, Urdhva Moolam. I'll just first go through the word level meaning, and then we'll go a little more detail based on what Shakracharya ji says, so that we'll be able to understand the mapping. Urdhva Moolam. Urdhva Moolam, whose roots are above. Urdhva Moolam. I'll explain that also shortly. Atha Shakam. And the branches are all below. The roots is above and branches, like we saw in the picture, right? Ashwatam, that people tree is representing samsara, Ashwatam. That is what Prahu, they say. And also, they say it is Avyayam. The Ashwatam, that tree represents samsara, but at the same time, it is avyayam. Seems to be a apparent contradiction. Samsara is supposed to be, as we saw, it is changing. Minute to minute, it is changing. This universe also is changing, we all know. But at the same time, it is imperishable, he says. So what is it? We'll see that. Then he goes on saying, Chandamsi, the Vedas, Yasya Parnani, all the leaves actually represent the Vedas. And why the leaves actually compared to Vedas, that also we'll see. Yasya Yastam Vedacha Veda with it. Then who knows, actually, he'll know about Vedas. The ones who understand this metaphor, then we are actually making progress towards understanding Vedas. So that is the first summary of the first sloka. Let's dive a little more deeper, because each of these words actually has got a lot of built-in meaning, but some of it will dive in. Okay. Then first, let's say Urdhva Moolam, the first word. And then we'll take Atha Shakam, we'll take that word. Then Ashwatham, because it is very important to understand this Ashwatham, which compares to the samsara tree, and of course every word. And then also why it is at the same time Avyayam, and then Chandamsi, how the leaves and all represent Vedas and so on. Like that, we'll take, for example, for this sloka, we'll take, word by word, and then try to understand. And that way, it'll be easy for us when we go to the second sloka and the third half of this third sloka. Now, let's take Urdhva Moolam. Moolam is root, right? That we all can relate. Urdhvam is actually, generally it's referred as, high, right? And now the Urdhvam also is can be understood or should be related as it's a superior. It is Urdhvam. It is superior than anything else. It is sacred than anything else. Because this Urdhvam, this root from which actually the entire universe has come out, is going to represent Lord. So we want to position Lord at the top, right? He is the superior most. He is the most sacred. And hence actually he is referred as Urdhvam. And he is the root, Urdhva Moolam. And because we cannot, he is beyond comparison. And so on. So that's why, that Urdhva Moolam is used. He is the root. So because he is the root, then from him only everything comes out. You can also, by the way, you can also imagine the family tree, right? And family tree, how wherever you are now, and then your parents, and their parents, and their parents, their parents, and so on. The tree goes like this, and then the root is above. And the root is actually, you will not be able to find out the root, but you know that there is a root. That's why we are all here, right? In the family tree, we are all there. But the root actually is in the top. And we have to conceive that way, when we say Urdhva Moolam, for the universe, which has got so much of, so many planets, so many planets, so many, things going on here and there, and the jivas in coming and going, and, and being nourished and so on, and going through all the ups and downs. All this universe has to have a root, and that is Bhagavan. and that is actually sacred. He is superior. So he is on the top, Urdhva Moolam. And that's why I know Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji also, he puts it very nicely. I'll just read it out. And those who, as I said, English transliteration, I did not supply, but I'll just read what the meaning is very clear. Urdhva Moolam Kalataha Sukshmatvat Karanatvat Nityatvat Mahatvat Cha Urdhvam Uchyate Brahma Abhyaktam Maya Shaktimat Tadmoolam asyati Swaham Samsara Vrikshaha Urdhva Mulaha. Beautifully, actually, Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji very nicely summarizes, explaining this word Urdhva Moolam. And that is, basis for all the commentators, they, of course, they write a lot of commentaries on this sentence itself. And anyway, the essence of this is Brahman with the Maya power is Urdhvam. Because Brahman with Maya only, as we know, is Ishvara. Ishvara actually is the creator. He is called so because he is the subtlest, right? And he is actually, beyond time also, because the time, when things were created, when we are able to define the time only, then we'll be able to say when it was created, right? And even before the time can be defined, Bhagwan was there, so that's why he is beyond the time, and he is eternal. He was there, he is there, and he will be there, right? And he is the root of this samsara tree. Actually, he is the root, and from him only everything else come out, right? Therefore said Urdhva Moolam. That is why he is called as Urdhva Moolam, right? So we fix the root now. Then we're going to go to down all this. Then we'll see Atashakam. The branches, all the branches, whatever has come out of Bhagwan as an effect, that's the effect, what is universe. They are all below, and they're all called branches. And in the branches also, there are so many varieties of branches are there, which we'll see some of it. Branches are spread downwards and upwards. Below the root, you will see some branches are above, some branches are below, and some are actually on the side. Like that, the people tree, you can reverse it and then see. I hope some of you have seen the people tree. It's a big tree, and in our village, actually, when I grew up, we had the dartboard that was there for generations, and we used to go there and play and all that. It's just it's a beautiful, actually, very nice shade and all that you'll have, and all the side roots, the secondary roots and all will be there, and of course there'll be some temple, a small temple also will be there under the thing, so that people can pray and all that. Anyway, I'm sure some of you would have seen that. So its branches spread downwards and upwards. And Gurudev, he also gives the comment. Anyway, later on you can see that. That I didn't want to. I think I have it here. Anyway, so yes, the flow of life downwards and upwards, depending on the higher or lower purpose, right? That's how actually Gurudev also adds to the commentary what Shankaracharya ji has written. The branches are spread, and it is upward, downward, and so on. And depending upon our the way actually we live our life, and then we go up in the branch or lower in the branch, right? And that is actually implied, and it will come up also later in terms of the various lokas and so on. And then the next word is a very peculiar word, ashwatham, which is actually the people tree. And why it is actually representing samsara. The why ashwatham is chosen by the our scriptures to represent samsara. That Adi Shankaracharya gives a very, very good interpretation, right? And the word ashwatham can be split like this. Na shwa api stitha iti ashwataha. Shwa means actually tomorrow. Api stitha, remaining the same. Na, it is not going to be remaining the same tomorrow. That's why it is ashwataha. The beautiful, interpretation. Only Shankaracharya can do it, And why actually the Ashwatam is taken by our scriptures, by our Vedas, to represent samsara? Because, it exactly fits in. That's the name of the tree, and it exactly fits into that which won't be remaining the same tomorrow. That is how the samsara is. And that's why, the Ashwatam tree is taken. And very nicely mapped also by our Adi Shankaracharya ji. So, and he goes on, Prahu, the next sentence, the Prahu, Avyayam, this is what actually they say. It is imperishable, it is indestructible, it is eternal, right? And that also actually, Shankaracharya said that Ashwatha tree, samsara, which is destroyed every moment, we know that the samsara is changing, it keeps on changing. And this universe is changing, everything is there. But it is there. It is changing, but it is there forever. Right? I mean, the samsara never vanishes. Of course, it keeps changing, but it never vanishes. In that context, it is imperishable, abhyayam. And that is the definition, actually, explanation what Adi Shankaracharya very nicely explains. Tam shanam pradvamsinam ashwatam prahu katayanti abhyayam. So that Ashwatha tree, the samara, which is destroyed every moment, but it is yet described as imperishable because it remains there. We keep on changing death, but death, rebirth, that cycle is going on. It's going on forever. And so that is why it is abhyayam. So that is what Prahu, the wise people say that. So that is the next word. In Chandamsi, I'm taking word by word of that and then expanding with support from Shankara Bhashya. And of course, what Gurudev also says, some of it actually is our Gurudev commentary is follows Adi Shankaracharya ji. Plus, he adds some more explanation to that from a different angle also. Chandamsi, now the Yasya Parnani. Parnani is actually the leaves. We saw the branches actually, spread various things, up and down. And the next loka is going to say that they all represent the lokas also. And then it has got leaves, right? And what does the leaf do? In the tree, what does leaf do? Leaf actually, helps the tree to um, to regenerate, right? Um, uh, to nourish, right? Those leaves are all now compared to Vedas, right? Because through Vedas, this universe actually is fed what is right, what is wrong, and all that. Through Vedas only, it's being fed to this universe. Right, and it is like the leaves actually absorbing the nourishment and then nourishing the tree. The nourishes the branches and then in turn nourishes the trunk, in turn nourishes the entire tree and so on. So that's why Parnani is compared to leaves, and which actually represents the Vedas. Vedas protect us from the samsara by revealing the dharma and adharma. So Vedas actually declare what is dharma, what is adharma, and all that. And like that, it protects the samsara. Protects the samsara means, it feeds the samsara, it nourishes the samsara with the right and wrong. And of course, depending upon whether we choose the right thing or wrong thing, depending upon that, our samsara will also vary, right? And similarly, leaves, the Vedas actually give that, and leaves also nourish the tree. Um, then the last sentence actually, Yastam Veda, the Veda. Those who know about this actually will know about Vedas also, because he's now mapping it and creating that in our mind how samsara is, represented by this inverted people tree, and hence helping us to inquire. That, and there is a couple of things I want to read from our Gurudev's commentary. So here, Chaddamsi Yasya Parnani. Now, this one, Adi Shankaracharya ji has given the commentary that these Vedas actually provide what is dharma, what is adharma, and so on, and that is how they nurture this samsara. And that is the interpretation what Adi Shankaracharya ji given, and our Gurudev actually gives that commentary also, that this is what actually Adi Shankaracharya ji says, and then adds to that. It can be viewed as interpreted as some more appealing style. Veda means knowledge. Knowledge does bring forth the dynamism into the samsara. Okay? Where there is greater knowledge, there are sure to watch greater manifestation of life. I mean, you see, in this, I'm taking this as an example to show how Gurudev follows the Guru Parampara teaching and also adds his commentary to supplement, complement, so that we'll be able to also relate it. Of course, Adi Shankaracharya, stopped with the dharma and adharma. He start from Vedas, and now he's saying that's the knowledge. And that knowledge is needed. Depending upon how we use that knowledge, then of course our samsara also is being affected. I mean, that's the point actually. So just to convey that in how our Guru Parampara thing is message is maintained, at the same time it is supplemented by the appropriate example as we can relate. And then, yes, the last sentence, Estam Veda Veda, that is, those who know actually this tree understands Vedas. For that also, our Gurudev gives, he who knows it is the knower of Veda. The man of perfect wisdom, as conceived by Vedas, is the knower of both perishable and imperishable. When we say knower, if we are able to dive deeper into this samsara tree, and then not only stay at the branches and the leaves level, but do some inquiry and go to the root level, that is imperishable. Ultimately, Bhagwan, at the root, that Ishvara is the cause, and Brahman with Maya is imperishable. Right. So, as Gurudev says, the Vedavid, who knows Vedas, when it implies that the man of perfect wisdom conceived by Vedas is who is the knower of both the perishable aspect as well as the imperishable aspect. To that extent, we'll have to inquire. Only then he is declared as Vedavid. Right. So it provides the means for us to kind of enter into this metaphor and then dive deeper and then grow with that. So that is the end of the first sloka. And once again, I picturize this so that we'll be able to put all these pieces so far, whatever we have seen. And the second, now having understood somewhat this metaphor, the second sloka is relatively easier. I'll take a few more minutes and then go to the second sloka also, and then see, let's see whether we have time for the other ones. I'll chant this. Adarshodvam prasutastasya shakaha guna pravruddha vishaya pravalaha adascha mulanyanu karmanubandhini manushya loke. So the tree metaphor continues. So what are all the things actually he says in this? And again, further mapping. Let's see sentence by sentence. This one I took it, sentence by sentence, so we can easily relate and then go forward. Adashodvam prasuta tasya shakaha. I split that also, and given the English transliteration also, so that people can
Uncle
easily
Ji,
relate.
somebody raised a hand to ask you a question, I think.
Oh, I see. Okay, please, interrupt me, because, once I am in this mode, I will not be able to see the hand raising and all that. So it's good actually you unmute yourself and ask the question. So please go ahead, whoever wanted to ask the question.
Hari Om. I just wanted to ask, like, there are only four Vedas, but then the leaves of the people tree are numerous. So why are the leaves being compared to four Vedas? Is my question.
Okay. And can you also tell your name, please? I'm not able to see
I am
anybody else.
Gauri.
Okay, thanks, Gauri. So, the leaves actually represent Vedas. When we say Vedas, Veda mantras. Okay, there are so many mantras are there. Each Vedas we know, that. So, in a short form, it is represented as Vedas, but they are all actually Veda mantras. Each one of them is Veda mantra. I hope that answers that question. Okay.
Yes,
All
thank
right.
you.
Good. Okay, sure. Good. All right. Now, the second sloka, adha, adha cha urdhvam prasuta tasya shakaha. The branches of this tree of life are upward and downward. These branches are spread both upward and downward, right? Actually, as Shankaracharya ji and others and all, add to this, where are these branches are spread? This universe actually is so widely spread and it keeps on expanding, right? And it is comparable to the 14 logas where we have in our Shastra. We define the 14 slokas, seven above, seven below, and so on. Buha, Bhuva, Suha, Maha, Jana, and all the way to Satyaloka, like Brahmaloka. And when we go down, it is Atala, Vitala, Sutala, and Patala, all the way to Apatala, and so on. So this universe, if we have to represent, then we have to represent, all these branches spread all over. They represent all these worlds. And we are, in our life, yeah, as human being, we are somewhere in the middle, and we keep going up and down, right? And that's how the birth cycle goes on. In the next birth, we don't know whether we'll be in this world, or we'll be going to some other loka upward, or we may go downward also, depending upon our closing balance when we leave this body, right? And whatever we have accumulated in during this body, and that gets updated to the invisible account what each one of us have, and Bhagavan maintains the database. And at the end of this life, Bhagavan looks at my account and then sees what is actually balance left, and depending upon the merit or demerit, he pushes me to whichever loka actually I deserve, right? And that's how the birth rebirth goes on. And of course, when you go there also, whether you go up or down, even up to Brahma loka, even Brahmaji, it is said he has got 100 Brahmaji years of his life only, right? Even for him. So like that, everybody is subject to this. And that is why, this branches represents this universe. It's a good metaphor for that. Mhm. Then guna pravriddha vishaya prabala. So what is nourishing them? What is nourishing this all these jivas in these branches? Is that guna pravriddha vishaya pravala. Pravala is actually that buds are there in each one of the branches, the shoots. In each branch, we have the shoots coming up, and they are like these sense objects. They're these, they absorb all the nutrition and like the sense objects and feed it to the leaves and branches and of course the tree, the entire tree, and so on. So that those gunas, whether it's rajas, tamas, rajas, sattva gunas, actually, that way, is developed depending upon the sense objects what being absorbed through these buds, which is a very nice comparison. And that pravala actually is Vishaya pravala, this the objects, sense objects are these buds, and that actually feeds it to the leaves and branches and so on. And that is how actually the guna pravriddha, the various gunas are all the predominance of sattva or predominance of rajas, predominance of tamas, all these things are controlled by the feeding of these sense objects. That's very nicely represented. Is guna pravriddha vishaya pravalaha. The beauty of this is once we go through these classes and understand the meaning, and of course, I'll share the slides also, those who are interested. Then next time when we chant, we'll be able to enjoy the meaning. And then, oh, this is what Bhagavan is saying. Then of course, sing it in, and then of course it'll come out in some form or other in a better way of, our internal peace. So that's the idea. Adachamulan anusandatanim. Let me just quickly try to go through this and then complete this sloka. Then we'll open it up for a few minutes and then we'll go to meditation. Adachamulani anusandatani. Adachamulani. Now, we saw the main root, and then we saw the branches, and we saw the leaves, and the purpose of the shoots, the buds, all these things, right? Then there are some secondary roots also, especially in people tree. Then you can see some other roots also coming up, right? And now and then it just comes out, and then it stays there, and then after some time, it gets stronger and stronger depending upon how it's feed and so on. That is actually the secondary roots are all representing our karma pala. Because we all in this universe, everybody does some karma or other, some action or other, and it has to result in some palam. And that palam actually, it gets accumulated, depending upon how, whether it is merits or demerits, etc. The bank balance is accounted, and of course, depending on the vasana, only the karma is kicked in, and then of course raga dvesha is based on our vasana, and of course body identification and so on. Depending upon that, we do the karma. Depending upon that, karma pala comes, and that cycle goes on, right? And those are all represented as secondary roots. That's what I say. Adasya monan, anusandatani. Secondary roots are stretched forth, depending upon how various karma pala, it keeps on going as the secondary growth goes. So vasanas kicks in karma pala, and karma, and then karma it kicks in into karma pala. All happening in this Manushya Loka. That's what is happening here in Manushya Loka. Manushya Loka, it happens. Because this karma palam and all that, this is the place actually where we create or we exhaust. Right? That's why Manushalaka is brought in. This is the biography. So this way, the entire tree so far is represented, and the together, when we put both the verses 1 and 2, and now we can look at this tree. The first one actually described about the root, which is the superior and representing the Brahma with Maya, that is Ishvara, and then the branches all, and then the leaves, and also how the shoots are all helping to develop the gunas, and the branches go up and down and so on, and also the other roots, which actually represent the karma pala, secondary roots. So far, with these two slokas, you can picturize this. A couple of more sentences are there in the next sloka, that is in V3, verse 3. The first two lines are again about the tree. Then he goes into, okay, now that you know a metaphor, how do we get out of this? How do we get out of this samsara? And that is the second half of the next sloka onwards. Is going to teach in the fourth sloka and fifth sloka and all that, is going to teach how to come out of this samsara. So you see the logic. He is visualizing the samsara using a metaphor, and then what is the way to come out of it? And here are the ways. Yeah? And then of course he builds up the benefits and so on. And who can actually do this? And who can help you to do this? And that's how the next few slokas goes. That we'll see later. This is the third sloka. We'll see that later. All right. Now, before we go, any questions so far? We have a few minutes. Or we can start with the my meditation. I want to complete actually up to 3, but that's okay. We are making good progress. And this understanding the problem is important, and then the solution you can be easily followed.
Shivaji, just a small question. Why did Bhagwan go to the extent of describing a tree that he's anyway going to ask us to destroy? Uh,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah.
Yeah. So that, we will know the intricacies of the samsara, what we are going through. See, many times actually, we don't understand. We stay at that level. Oh, this is what is my fate. I have to go through this and just to go on, going through the up and down and all that. But we don't stop ourselves and then inquire and say, why am I doing this? Is there any other better way? That vairagyam we are not developing. We are enjoying or suffering by watching the movie. We stop at there. But when we start actually questioning ourselves, why are we going through this ups and downs? And heroine goes through ups and downs, we are also going through. If heroine cries, we are also crying. Like that, we stop at that level. That is samsara. But on the other hand, if you say, hey, when heroine actually going through this, why should I am crying? Why I am crying? If that kind of inquiry to develop in that, then only then we'll be able to see the screen. That vairagya has to be developed. And that's why he's describing so much. So that know that where you are, how you are subjected to do, so that you'll be able to develop that vairagya. And then hence we'll start inquiring. That is the reason. I hope that answers Shyam.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Shivaji. Thank you.
Good. Okay, topic for Maranam. So last week, we gave this, and those who joined recently, we give every week, we try to give a topic and related to what we are studying. And that way, when you reflect, then the next class becomes much easier to understand. And, so please do reflect. And then, people, you would have seen that already people are sharing. So please do share also your reflection. So that way it'll be easy. And I will go through each one of that and then comment. And somebody else want to comment any of this, then you can take one-on-one, not on the group, but one-on-one, actually, you can give a feedback. But I will definitely give a feedback for each one of these people. But do please take some time, few minutes in a week, because in order to get the full benefit of this chapter, it's better actually we go through this Maranam topic also, and then reflect on it. And if you can share it, that'd be even great. And please do read the Maranam what others are sharing also. That'll also help you. Okay. Now that was last week. And this week, relatively easier one. I'll put this, of course, in the WhatsApp group. Supposing I perform Nitya Karma, which is actually prescribed karma, which is actually Nishkama Karma also, and avoid any Kamya Karma, will I get moksha? Explain. Either yes or no, please explain. Okay. So, if any question, then of course, text me, then I will definitely answer. I'll put this in the good. We have about 11 minutes. So those who are new, we go through these steps from asana onwards. Asana, pranayama, pratyahara, that is comfortable seat, then breathing, observing the breathing, then withdrawing the senses and mind, then doing the last 3 steps, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. The first 2 steps, yama and niyama, is an ongoing basis we do. That is the daily activities. We make sure that we apply yama when we interact with the world outside. We apply niyama when we interact within ourselves. That's an ongoing thing. But at the seat of meditation, we start from asana. And the last three steps, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, that can vary depending upon the type of meditation. I had the slide, but it's not there. Depending on the type of meditation, you can actually meditate upon a particular value, or you can meditate upon your Ishtadevata, Ekarupa Upasana, or you can actually meditate upon this universe as Bhagwan's body, which is Vishwarupa Upasana, or you can do Vedantic meditation, which is actually recollecting some of the teachings what we go through in Vedanta, and then sinking it in, assimilating that. Those are the things actually, the different types. And we keep changing as we do this guided meditation, we keep changing from one mode to another method. And now being Ramanavami, then we're going to do um, meditation on Lord Rama. And before that, let us chant a couple of verses. Sham, can you chant? Okay, I'll chant. Asangoham, 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 punah punah, Satchidanandarupoham, ahamevahamavyayah, Nityasuddha vimuktoham, Nirakarohamavyayah, Bhumanandaswarupoham, Ahamevahamavyayah. Portable asana. Back, neck, head, all perpendicular to the base. Eyes gently closed, having Bhagwan's image in the mind. Relax the body. Scan the body from head to toe. After relaxing every part of the body, give an instruction that you're not going to move for the next few minutes. Turn your attention to breathing. Observe the breathing. Make the inhaling and exhaling even. Make it smooth. Keep observing the breathing. Make it rhythmic. With this relaxed body and rhythmic breathing, Mind is already calming down. Draw the mind from any external thoughts. Any internal thoughts. Just be a witness. Don't go with the thought. Mind is becoming more and more sattvic. This entire universe, moving and unmoving, all operate under a divine power. I bow down to Lord Rama, that supreme divine power. I bow down to Lord Rama, under whose Maya the entire universe functions, including Brahmaji, all the Devas, and all up to the demons. Bow down to Lord Rama, because of whose existence the world appears real, just as a rope appears like a snake. Our fears, our attachments, and our struggles of life all arise from this non apprehension, which is leading us to misapprehension. The Lord's feet alone are the boat for those who wish to cross this ocean of samsara. I bow down to that supreme reality, Lord Rama. Cinmaya Vishwamakilam Brahmadideva Sudha Yat Sattvadamushaiva Bhati Sakalam Rajo Yatahir Brahma यत्पादप्लवमेकमेव इव वाम्बोधे स्थितिर्षावताम् वन्देऽहं समशेषकारणपरम् रामाख्यमीशं हरिम्. I bow down to that supreme reality, Lord Rama, the cause for everything. Yet untouched by anything. Amakyamisham Harim. I bow down to that supreme reality, Lord Rama. Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Gently open your eyes and try to stay calm for a couple of more minutes. Hari Om, and we'll see you all next week.